you ever noticed the hinges on those large front doors of the church? I'm guessing probably not, because when the doors are open, you can't see them. And on Sunday mornings around here, we like to fling the doors open wide and welcome people through them. But when the doors are closed, you can see the massive brass hinges, 3 of them on each door. They serve a utilitarian purpose, of course, keeping the doors attached to the stone frame. But they also include some decorative flourishes, as you might expect with 1920s craftsmanship. I've been thinking about hinges this week because today serves as both a liturgical and a biblical hinge point. Liturgically, this is the last Sunday after the Epiphany, the very last one. So today we let the Alleluias ring out as we stand on the precipice of the penitential season of Lent. This morning is the climax of Epiphany Tide, that season of the church year rooted in the revelation of Jesus' identity as God's Son. It began with wise men from the east following that star of Bethlehem with their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and it reaches its conclusion in this morning's story of the Transfiguration, as Jesus' glory is revealed to the disciples. In between, we heard about Jesus' baptism in the Jordan River, the first miracle at a wedding in Cana, and a miraculous catch of fish, among other stories, all of which serve to reveal who Jesus really is, and the great epiphany for us, for the first disciples, for the world, is that Jesus is the Son of God. So this morning is a hinge point between Epiphany and Lent, which begins in just a few days on Ash Wednesday. This same Jesus, whose face shines with resurrection glory up on that holy mountain, will soon enough have his face spat upon and disfigured as he makes his way to the cross. Following this morning's transcendent moment, Jesus will begin the journey back down the mountain. He'll turn his face towards Jerusalem to face his worldly accusers. All that is to come. But the Transfiguration serves as the biblical hinge point between Jesus' public ministry and his journey to the cross. The hinge swings from revelation to sacrifice as the door of Jesus' earthly life prepares to slam shut. But for now, we're on top of this mountain as these dramatic and confusing events unfold. Jesus has taken his 3 closest disciples with him, not that Jesus plays favorites exactly, but Peter, James, and John have a privileged role, kind of like an inner circle of discipleship. It's these 3 who pray with Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane the night before he's crucified. They are special witnesses to the ministry of Jesus in all of its divinity and humanity. They've seen him do the miraculous. They've seen him experience the miraculous, and they will soon see him at his most achingly vulnerable, praying before his arrest and crucifixion. So while it would make sense that Jesus would take Peter, James, and John with him on this arduous trek up the mountain, at first glance, the figures they encounter offer much less clarity. The disciples look up to see Jesus chatting with Moses and Elijah, two long-dead prophets of old. If Jesus' glowing face wasn't disconcerting enough, seeing these two heroes of the faith must have been terrifying, which may be why Peter, he doesn't know what to say. He starts babbling about building 3 tents. But there's significance here. These weren't random choices. The presence of Moses, the great Hebrew prophet and lawgiver, and Elijah, a prophetic leader of the Hebrew people, point to Jesus' own role in salvation history. As God's Son, he is the revelation and the fulfillment of all the law and the prophets. So through this moment of transfiguration, this foretaste of resurrection glory, Jesus' true identity as God's Son is revealed. Jesus' message of bringing hope and salvation to all people is revealed. Jesus' mission to lift up the least and the lost is revealed. And not just revealed, but given God's divine stamp of approval. This is my Son, my chosen. Listen to him. That's the revelation and the charge for the 3 disciples up on that holy mountain. That's the revelation and the charge for us. Listen to him. This morning, we too find ourselves up on the mountaintop. And this particular vista reminds us that we all encounter hinge points in our lives. Moments when life swings dramatically in a new direction. Times when we must bid farewell to that which we have known in order to embrace that which comes next. Hinge points can be joyful, like the birth of a child or a new job, or they can be painful, like the end of a relationship or a devastating diagnosis. But they are all fraught with uncertainty about the future. Maybe you're at a hinge point right now. Maybe something is dying in your life, a dream, a certain vision of yourself, an old way of being. Maybe you're on the threshold of something new, unsure of whether to step forward in a new direction. The good news is that the Transfiguration reminds us that resurrection always follows death. That's the ultimate lesson of our faith. It's why we celebrate with such unrestrained joy at Easter. It's why even in the midst of grief, we're able to say Alleluia at a funeral. It's why we're able to hold on to hope even when darkness descends. One of the deep privileges of ordained ministry is walking with people through the hinge point between life and death. A few weeks ago, Brenna and I walked this path with my mother-in-law. And while we're still reeling from the sheer speed at which it all unfolded, Rosalie was living independently and driving in October, diagnosed with dementia in November, stopped recognizing Brenna in December, and died in early February, exactly 1 month ago today. Through it all, there were glimpses of resurrection glory, bright moments of hope that shined in the darkness. In her final days during her brief stay in hospice care, a woman with a guitar poked her head into her room and asked if she could play something. Brenna and I were really not enthusiastic about this at all. And we were about to say thanks, but no thanks, until something compelled us to invite her in. She asked if we had any requests. I refrained from saying free bird. But we couldn't think of anything, so I mumbled something about calming instrumental music. After a few minutes of this, and it was a little awkward, after a few minutes of this, I blurted out, kind of like Peter, who has just no idea what he's saying when he talks about the tents, right? I just blurted out, "Do you know, come thou fount of every blessing?" I don't know where this came from, but she simply nodded and started playing beautifully and singing with the most angelic voice. We were both so moved by her music and her presence, it was as if an angel had briefly appeared in that room. Well, the following Sunday, the week after she died, I picked up the leaflet. I'd been a little distracted that week, but I was sitting here and I picked up the leaflet. And that very same hymn, "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing," was the final hymn that day. Stuart had programmed it during the summer, and I had no idea we'd be singing it that day. These small moments of revelation are glimpses of the resurrection. That's what took place up on that mountain top. That's what took place in that hospice room. And it's what surrounds us every day when we have eyes to see and ears to hear. These resurrection glimpses shine particularly brightly in moments of despair, lighting the way forward, illuminating our path, giving us hope to carry on through the hinge points of our lives. Look for them. Be cheered by them. Find hope in them. And then continue to do what God commands us to do. Listen to Jesus. Listen to Him.